Residents in the Johannesburg, Tshwane and Ekurhuleni metros are the most affected by the water shortages in Gauteng. That's according to Cabinet, which met yesterday. Minister in the Presidency, Khumbudzo Ntshavheni, says the mayors of these metros need to come to the party. She says they need to work with the Water Minister and Rand Water to try and manage the situation.
The situation that we have is that we have a water shortage issue in Gauteng and across the country. But in Gauteng, the major water shortage is in the areas of responsibility of the cities. That is the responsibility, the city of Tshwane, city of Johannesburg and Ekurhuleni in the main. And the minister has been in the Department of Water and Sanitation and Rand Water. They have been intervening to say how do we manage the water shortages, but it requires the availabilities of the mayors as water authorities to come to the party to assist and collaborate. In terms of the briefing that we received yesterday, the water losses that are experienced through at the side of Rand Water, which is the responsibility, which is the water board, which is the responsibility of the Department of Water and Sanitation, it's at 3%, which is below the internationally accepted standards. But the water losses that are experienced on the side of the cities, whether it's Tshwane, it's Ekurhuleni, or city of Johannesburg, it's higher. And that water losses are because of not repair or non-repair of damaged infrastructure or leaking pipes that are left non-attended, and all sorts of areas that are responsibilities of the cities as water service authority. So that's what the minister, that's why we had indicated that he will brief with the mayors. We must indicate, even in the absence of the mayor of Johannesburg, the Johannesburg Water has been part of the meetings with the Minister of Water and Sanitation. And it's not what the minister require assistance with from the cities. It's what the cities require assistance with from the Department of Water and Sanitation. And that's why it's important that the executive mayors form part of those meetings.
Gauteng is dealing with a water provision crisis, leaving many without for days at a time. The Water and Sanitation Minister says water shifting will be implemented as an interim measure to ensure that where possible, water is redirected to ensure at least some supply. Let's find out what this means. And Deputy Minister David Mahlobo is here and joins us now. Thank you very much. Good evening and welcome to the program. You've been with the Minister on these site visits across Gauteng. Why are we in this situation?
No, thank you very much, Iman. We went Minister went to South Hill in Joburg. Yesterday I was in Ekurhuleni. Later on with the Minister we're in Soshanguve and Waterkloof. What has happened is that earlier this year, just before the end of the winter, Rand Water has always engaged the municipalities so that we can be in a position to plan for the rise in the mercury in terms of temperatures, because then we have high levels of consumption. A number of these municipalities, they came in, they produced plans, and we agreed on certain targets that they were supposed to meet. And these municipalities, I have to confirm that only the city of Ekurhuleni is within the target to manage during the issues of summer when there's high levels of consumption. Tshwane and Johannesburg, they are actually consuming more than what we have. Our situation was exacerbated by the storms that we had about more than a week ago, where the system of Rand Water was affected in terms of the ability to pump. And then in the last 3 days, another system around Ekurhuleni site, there was a power failure or power trip, then exacerbated by load shedding. Where we stand now, after we've met with the communities, we know that the water levels in the storage facilities is not at the level where scientifically it must be in a healthy state of between a 60 to 70%.
Right. And
most of them this morning, we directed that they must stabilize. Our technical teams of Rand Water, the department, and the 3 metros have been working around the clock. The system is starting to stabilize. is not on a healthy state. There are still areas that are in a high-lying areas that have problems. Therefore, we have said work on that particular issue. The second point they need to work on in the medium term to the long term. Most of these municipalities, they never plan for the growth in population to increase the secondary systems, whether it's reservoirs, whether the pumps, so that when they receive additional water on the basis of the demand, they are able to store that water. Even if there's a load shedding, they know how to handle it. We still have a lag time of 48 hours. That's one component that way to do that. But from the rainwater side, on the bulk, this year, they added additional 210 megaliters reservoir that is able to complement the area of Ekurhuleni, Tshwane, and parts of Mpumalanga. The main system on the other side in Zekerposh, they are able to put additional 110 megaliters in terms of Station 5. That's what we've been working on, Iman.
All right.
Then the last issue, we have to get the citizens to work closely with these municipalities, change our conduct of unwise water use, especially when can we irrigate, so that even when we do car washes, because we can't afford a situation where our usage in terms of person per capita per day is more than the world average, around 300.
I've got to come in there, Deputy Minister, because otherwise, you know, we've got the operation and the architectural issues. And I want to get to some of the big issues as well around accountability. Undoubtedly, whatever you've said is valid, but what we're hearing over and over again is that the municipalities are not doing the job, and whoever is charged with those responsibilities are not doing the jobs that they are supposed to be doing. Accountability is a big part of this, and in some ways it's astonishing to hear the minister have to direct the city of Joburg, for example, to start the process of replacing old and leaking pipes to stop the large volumes of water that are being lost owing to leaks. It isn't a new problem, and they haven't sorted it out yet.
We must agree that a number of these municipalities, they've done well over the years, but they are struggling. Some of them, they have no capacity to perform the function that they are actually directed in terms of law as water services authorities. We have taken a decision that, one, we are going to support these municipalities to deal with issues of water leaks, because these leaks are actually beyond the average that you'll expect. Some of them, they lose water as far as about 42%, and it goes to the ground. It impacts on the availability of water to citizens, but they are also losing the revenue. We have then said, as the Minister of Water, Minister of Culture, working with the Minister of Finance, to say, let's look at mechanism where this old infrastructure that has collapsed, it must be replenished and it must be replaced. But when there is no money, we are saying these water boards, because they have the balance sheets that is healthy, like rainwater, Umgeni water, these municipalities must get into an agreement, do a build, operate, train and transfer, so that asset can be in a good position.
Okay, I've only got time for a final question, Deputy Minister. I'm so sorry. I know it sounds a little bit jarring and untidy, and I'm just trying to wait for you to get to the heart of that answer, because we have a very limited time in these interviews. You have said there's no capacity in these municipalities, in some of these problematic ones, to perform the function. What you're talking about creating new operational plans and responses, this is old news. We have heard this before. And I think an important thing to mention is that people are pretty much left to fend for themselves. There's a lack of accountability. You know, you think of places in Johannesburg, for example, like the Rahima Musa Hospital in Coronationville, which now exclusively is using borehole water and tankers to keep running because of the failures to have a consistent, reliable supply of water and electricity. Even schools in the province in various areas are shutting down because of no water. It's a big problem, and it doesn't seem as if there's political will in the city to fix it. Where is the mayor?
Iman, we must never miss a point. Water is a system, and shortcuts are not going to work. When you deal with infrastructure management doctrine, the issue of water losses, as an example, is a matter that must be resolved. And that's why national government, in terms of our responsibility, we are looking at these grants so that we can re-engineer a particular component to replace infrastructure. Then there's a question of the private partnership that you need to do. That is one component. Another component why the system is failing, because you don't touch one part of the system and think the problem is resolved. The population of Gauteng, especially Johannesburg, Ekurhuleni, the numbers are very high compared to 5 years ago. That's why the issue of additional capacity in terms of the adequacy of the system is an important issue. That's why they must invest in more reservoirs, like in South Hill, here in Tshwane, then including the issues of the pumping of the system. That's how the system must be managed. In the interim, they must provide water either through cutting, using groundwater, but ensure that the quality is good. There is a communication with citizens so that we don't inconvenience our people.
Thank you for your time this evening again. It sounds like there are some certainly missed opportunities in terms of forward planning and foresight into how to head some of these problems off at the past, some of which are historical, haven't just emerged yesterday. Hopefully we'll have time for another conversation. Water and Sanitation Deputy Minister David Mahlobo.